resilient one. So I'm just going to hand it over and we're going to see what the big thought that's shown us today is.
Thanks, Eloise. Well, welcome again, everyone, to the first Big Think Thursday. As Eloise said, I'm Scott from Foresight Environmental, and we work with Charter Hall and CBRE nationally, helping them with their sustainability teams and facilities managers to improve waste and recycling performance and behaviours throughout their assets nationally and here at One Martin Place. And that's what we're here to talk about today, and specifically, what about the puck? So, probably unless you've been living under a rock for the last year, you probably would have noticed in the media and in society in general, a lot of people are becoming a lot more interested in waste and recycling. It's a very glamorous topic, I know, but people are starting to talk more about it, which is great. And often the conversation is centred around coffee, and specifically coffee cups. Now, we live in a very heavily caffeinated society. I'm sure everyone here gets a coffee every morning, probably from here. I know we had our free coffee this morning with the app, which was great, and probably again in the afternoon. And the reality is that our coffee habits are potentially causing some fairly big environmental problems. I'm sure you've all probably heard things about what those problems might be, and I just want to throw some numbers at you to start unpacking that a little bit today. We go through in Australia approximately 1 billion disposable coffee cups annually. It's a staggering amount. It's hard to get your head around. We clearly love coffee. That equates to 50,000 cups every half hour in Australia. They're crazy numbers. And the really sad thing about that is they typically all end up in landfill at the moment. Now, the reason for that is that coffee cups are not easily recyclable. We have traditional recycling streams like paper and cardboard or mixed plastics, and the coffee cup doesn't really fit in either of those streams. So, and the reason for that is they're often made up of multiple materials. You've got paper on the outside, plastic or waxy lining on the inside, and then a plastic lid typically. So they just don't fit within those conventional recycling processes. So the sad reality is right now, a lot of them end up in landfill. And the sobering thought is that our $4 cup of coffee in the morning that we might take 5 minutes to drink and then we throw our cup away, that cup's going to probably outlive us in landfill. So every single day, every single cup that you and I drink, that's sitting in landfill longer than we live, which to me is a sobering thought. So clearly, we have a problem. In saying that there's no recycling opportunities right now, there are a number of pilot programs and organisations trying to look for solutions, and indeed One Martin Place has engaged Simply Cups, which is one of those organisations who are looking for new solutions to sort of think outside the box and recycle our cups. But right now, there's just nothing commercially scalable or viable for the coffee cup right now. And I'm here to sort of tell you some slightly more sobering news, is that the cup potentially is only part of the problem, which is where we get to today's topic, what about the puck? So the cup has seemed to sort of dominate the media. Everyone's talking about the cup because it's the thing that you and I touch and we throw it away. But for every cup that we produce, every disposable cup, those billion cups, but more than that, the cups that are made in reusable cups, they produce a puck. Puck is that little used ground coffee that we tamp in the drop box and throw it away. Now, what's the problem with throwing the puck away? So when we talk about waste, we like to measure it, we want to quantify the impacts. And we do that by weighing it. We talk weight in waste. And a puck typically is 4 to 5 times heavier than the cup. So for every cup we produce, 4 to 5 times the weight of that is generated in used coffee grounds, which based on those numbers equates to around 40,000 tonnes of coffee waste annually, which you just can't even begin to think what that looks like as a quantum, but it's massive. Again, the sad thing about that is they too typically all end up in landfill, and that's the point of my message today, is that it's such a missed opportunity, because whereas the cup doesn't have a robust recycling solution right now, The puck does. We have readily available organics recycling services all throughout Australia. So we could be eliminating our food waste and our coffee waste to landfill today, no doubt. Now you might ask, well, what's the problem with throwing coffee in the ground? It's organic, it's going to break down. Yes, it does break down, but when we throw food waste into landfill, it often decomposes very inefficiently and it produces methane gas as it breaks down. And methane gas is one of the worst greenhouse gases there is. Food waste to landfill is one of the highest contributors to greenhouse gas emissions in the world. So again, massive problem, but also a massive opportunity to change it and to do something about it right now. As I said, organics can be recycled right now. What does that look like? Well, it's recycled into fertiliser. It gets composted into fertiliser, which can be used for soil enrichment. So in Australia, soil fragility is another big environmental problem for our agricultural lands in particular. And they rely heavily on fertilisers to support their crop growth. And we are literally throwing tens and thousands of tonnes of food waste into landfill, and they're not getting the benefit of it. In addition to that, the commercial composting facilities that produce the fertiliser also generate energy from capturing the biogas that's produced through that process. So not only are we removing the material from landfill and potentially turning it into a very valuable product, we're also removing the greenhouse gas from the atmosphere and then turning it into energy. So the difference in the outcome is hugely significant. And in addition to that, there's also a happy byproduct of being typically a lot cheaper than sending waste to landfill, which is relevant for a commercial building like One Martin Place in reducing their waste to landfill costs. So what does that mean for me, for you? Well, again, you'd be pleased to know that you're already doing organics recycling in this building right now. We've got our waste contractor has implemented a organics recycling service. We've got bins downstairs. Our friends at the cafe at the back of the room are doing a fantastic job of separating their pucks and all their other food waste, putting it in the bins downstairs. That gets collected, taken for composting, turning into fertiliser. Fantastic. But I'm sure there's coffee machines all through the building on different floors. I know you're producing food waste, food scraps on your floors, and so what I want to ask you and challenge you today is to have a think about your floor and ask yourself, are we doing organics recycling on our floors? Do we have an organics bin? And if not, why not? You could easily implement it just like you do a paper bin or a bottles and cans bin. You put an organics bin. So I'd encourage you to speak to building management. They want to support you on this because it's you, the tenants, the inhabitants of this building that we rely on to actually implement these changes and achieve these great outcomes, because waste is very behavioural. It's all about the individual. It requires you and I to do something about it. We can't defer it to building management to fix for us. We need to do something. So I would like to challenge you to think about what you're doing on your floors. I know when we talk about environmental problems like this, it's often just huge numbers, 1 billion coffee cups. They can be quite discouraging sometimes. We can become numb to the figures, and you might think, well, what can I do about it? Well, that old adage, as cliched as it may be, about thinking globally but acting locally, it's so true for waste. Because as I said, we can potentially fix water and energy efficiency problems by implementing technology and infrastructure, but waste requires you and I to do something, to make a change. So I'd encourage you, let's address these problems. Yes, they're big problems, but there's simple solutions that you and I have the ability to change. Let's start with One Martin Place. Let's start with your floor. And I want to challenge you to rethink your coffee habits. You've got the cup and you've got your coffee grounds. What the puck are you going to do about it? And this, ladies and gentlemen, is your big thought for this Thursday. Thank you for your time. I'll be hanging around. We can grab a coffee together in a reusable cup and continue the conversation. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Scott. So, I invite anybody to get in touch or have a chat to Scott now that he's doing that big thing for today. Next week, which is 10-minute fast, punchy powwows. Next week we have Shelley Dow coming to talk about, she's a mountaineer, and she's going to talk about what climbing some of the scariest mountains in the world has taught her about surviving the corporate landscape. She just got back from Patagonia, and so that'll be a bunch to look forward to for next week. So thanks for coming, guys. Have an amazing day, and see you next week.